Good morning, everyone. Well, it's early and I'm driving into town. I decided to go ahead and make another car video. My friend that does the prepping channel does that all the time. In any case, the topic for today is teamwork. That was something hard for me to learn as a Christian. I am one of these workers that I prefer to work alone. I don't have to clean up after somebody else, fix their mistakes. I can just do it myself and then I'm fine with it. And I can be a lone worker where you give me the task, leave me alone, and I'll get it done. I'll make sure it's done. But that's not how God works. Everything that we do with God. Not for God, with God. Everything. That's why He gave us the Spirit, so that we wouldn't have to be alone in any of these things. Because a lot of what we're going to run into problems. Well, we've got our helper with us the entire time, who will sit back, and as long as we're checking in, let us do our thing. As soon as we get into trouble, so like, huh? Oh, yeah. Let's have a meeting. Or have our come to Jesus meeting. And I'll see how to deal with the problem. And there's no problems, as one of the motivational speakers used to say. There's no such thing as a problem. We only have opportunities. So we get to solve the opportunity. My leg is still bothering me. FYI, stay clear of wasp nests. One fell off the ground at the little restroom near where I camp. I was going there this morning to do my normal routine, and as I'm walking into the door, I'm still on the grass. I look down and there's a wasp nest on the ground. It apparently fell off the building up above. And as soon as they saw me, they all got into a flurry around the nest. I walked by real fast and didn't stop at the door to go in. I just went by real fast. And I got stung one time. So since I have to leave, I don't have to deal with it, but I talked to the ranger on the way out, and he's going to deal with it. You could walk into a hornet's nest. I could have been stung multiple times. I just got one sting. Thank God. We never know what we're going to run into during the day. I wasn't bothering them. I wasn't going to bother them. And I don't have any of my long-distance hornet spray. They make a spray. Now, I've got flying insect spray that I use in the tent to get rid of, if I let flies in and mosquitoes in. I hate that when they're buzzing around me at night. So I get rid of them, but I don't have the hornet spray where it shoots about 10 feet. And that's as close as you want to get to a hornet's nest. 10 feet. And even at that, they're not going to be happy, but you're hopefully going to kill the majority of them in your initial spray, because they won't leave the nest initially. Even though it's on the ground, it's still their home. And they're sworn to protect it. Well, you can run into hornets' nests of people as well. People that have their little domain, especially in churches. You know, they have their seat designated to them by themselves, never given to them. It's just they claim it. And if you're seated in it, they're not going to be happy. I used to make it a point, and it's something that maybe you all maybe think about. I wouldn't necessarily change seats every Sunday, but I would change seats enough times so that I didn't feel like I had a seat. No, I wouldn't sit at the bottom the first day and sit in the back row the next Sunday, and I might move a row or two because I liked being down front. We got a bunch of county workers going in with cranes and all kinds of stuff. I wonder if they're going to the park. In the park yesterday, maintenance going on. They were taking down some trees. The Corps of Engineers went in and marked some bad trees that have to be taken down. And they cut them down, cut them into movable pieces, and then loaded them in a truck and hauled them away. That's the way you're supposed to deal with trees. At one of the parks, they just drop them right where they're at, and they leave them. Shouldn't do that. You leave places for critters to get into and make their home. There's enough. You're in the forest. You don't need to make any homes for critters. There's enough places for them. So anyhow, getting back to teamwork. God provides a mechanism so that we can have our morning meeting, prayer meeting. You should start the day with God. I'm looking at this, and part of it looks fuzzy, and I can't figure out why. Let me just hang on a second while I wipe the lens, just in case. No, I think it's just the light. I got somebody coming in behind me, so I'm going to have to speed up a little bit. I'm not going the speed limit here. So if it gets noisy, I'll slow down here in a bit. So anyhow, you start your day in the morning. We have the Lord's Prayer as a template. You don't have to follow it exactly. Now, if you don't know what to pray, that's a good prayer to pray, but when it gets right down to it, it's just a guideline. It covers the basics that we need to cover. And you don't have to just do the Lord's Prayer and quit. There's plenty more for you to do. You can pray for people that you know that need help. God gets all these prayers. He hears everybody's prayer. And He answers every prayer. Yes, no, and not yet. But He does answer. So you start the day. Help me to have a good day at work if you're working. Help me to talk to so-and-so who's making good progress and I think is almost ready to hear about the gospel. If you got somebody at work. Some jobs don't like you teaching the gospel at work, so you got to always be covert with it. Find ways to sneak it into the conversation. I'm passing a school bus. I guess it's that time of the morning. Yes, it's early. I got to go to my mailbox first before I go to my son, so I'm not in any hurry. They don't open until 8. Okay, coming up on my turn here. I got to watch the road. There's a little interchange here. When you're driving, you have to look both ways. When you're walking, you have to look both ways. Any way you go, you have to look around. God says we're to look around circumspectly. God's omnipresent, so we never have to worry about going someplace where He's not. And when we're told some people pull stuff out of context. It's so easy to do if Satan's leading you. We're the restraining force, and when we're removed, some people think that the Holy Spirit's going to be removed. No, you can't remove the Holy Spirit. It's the combination of us and the Holy Spirit that's going to be removed. And in doing so, our prayers that Satan can't make any further advancements won't be heard by God anymore, because we'll be in heaven because of the rapture. So the bottom line is, the Spirit is everywhere. I don't care where you're at. If you're sinning and you're at a bar and you're drinking too much, God is there in the Spirit. And if you realize it, which may be hard to do depending on how many drinks you've had, when you realize it, He's going to encourage you to stop drinking and leave. Or go over and get a table instead of the bar and ask for some coffee. Now, coffee doesn't reverse alcohol, but it's a game delayer. If you sit there and drink coffee, you'll be more alert, and it will help you to wait out the time until the alcohol dissipates if you have no place to go. Shouldn't be there in the first place, but God always provides a mechanism to get out of the situation that you put yourself in. Whatever it is. I've gotten to where I recognize God in the actions of things around me. I haven't quite figured out yet what the wasp nest has to do with me yet, other than the fact of going and telling the ranger about it. We're getting pretty good at communicating. If he's not there, I'm watching things going on. I probably can stay there at this campsite, barring any changes, Lord willing. I have to always tack that on, until the rapture. 2 months is the limit. I'm probably at 2 months because I went in there early in June, midway of June. Pulling on to the 4-lane, the big 4-lane, and it's speed limit 65 here. I will have to go that because people will be upset if I don't. But there's people that go faster than that. And I can't drive this. Even if I'm not talking to you, I still can't drive this without going too fast. So I get up to 65 and I set the cruise control on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I don't have to pay attention to it now. Now I'm going to have to watch. When we get up here a little bit, the sun's going to be in my eyes, and you may not be able to see me. So hopefully by then I'll be done. We're just having a chat while I'm driving. These are just things that I think about as I'm driving. Because I never stop. I'm working on my next lesson every day. Because every day I've got another lesson coming. And for this one, teamwork. Now, teamwork doesn't stop with Jesus, with the Spirit. You can work with other Christians. In fact, if you're a brand new Christian, I highly recommend don't doing anything on your own. Now, that doesn't mean go lock yourself in your room until you're ready. But don't be anxious to get out there and talk to people. Because you will be surprised and disappointed and discouraged if you're really new at this. So go with a group. Most churches have visitation where you go see people in hospitals, shut-ins. See, there's some of that sun coming in the side now. And you can just talk to them. People in hospitals, I used to do this. A lot of them, especially if they're in some kind of a medical problem, are put there because they have a medical problem. They may have no family coming to visit them. The only ones that they see are the nurses, and they're not there all the time, and they're not there to save their souls. They're only there to treat them until they're well enough to leave. That's not how Jesus works. He doesn't treat you until you're well enough to leave. He treats you until you are perfect and then stays with you forever. Now, we can't do that, but Jesus can. So we got to leave Jesus with people that need help. This one old guy I used to visit, I think he'd had a stroke. And he couldn't move much, and his family wasn't really involved. He was in some kind of a center, maybe been a rest home, and he had a stroke there, and so they put him in the hospital. And so he was there for a little while. And when I started visiting him, it was helpful. A lot of times, we have to make sure we've got two ways to communicate. We have a mouth and we have an ear. Sometimes you have to shut the mouth and use the ear, because until they've dumped out all this poison that they're carrying in, you're not going to be able to fill it with anything good. They got hatred for their family, hatred for the place they're at, hatred. They got to get that out. Let them talk. And don't correct them. Let them talk. Play the good cop. You can't play the bad cop unless you play the good cop first. Anyhow, you listen. And if you've got a similar story, you could share that. And hopefully your spiritual release from that story, the happy ending. See, they don't know, if they don't have Jesus, they don't have happy endings. If you can show them what a happy ending is like, that'd be okay. And don't be pointing fingers saying, well, if you'd stop sinning, all this stuff would happen. No. The world doesn't want to hear that. The world is out for themselves. We're supposed to be fishers of men. Now, I know the commercial fishermen that we have in the Bible, they throw out nets and they just bring a whole bunch of people in. But I'm an individual fisherman, and I cast and I reel in and I cast until I get a bite, and then I bring that fish in. And fishermen like that, whether it's fly fishing or lure fishing or live bait, it's the same process. You've got to figure out what they want. What do the fish want? What do the people want? When you find out what they want, then, and only then, can you talk. A lot of these people, they want simple things. They want acceptance. They want love. Everybody wants acceptance and love, but some people are craving it. They want someone that will accept them the way they are. Jesus fits that bill perfectly. Now, don't be making up stories, but if you can say things like, yeah, you're not going to use the words, I was a lowly sinner and Jesus saved me. No, be specific if you can. I used to rob banks. Most of us don't have stories that can match what's out there in the world. So don't try to match it. Even if yours isn't exactly as bad as theirs or like theirs, if you can say that you had a problem that you couldn't break. I used to smoke, or I used to drink a lot, or I used to whatever. And God started working with me. It didn't happen overnight. We tell our stories. We're witnesses. So we tell our stories. When they can see that you're honest and that you've been struggling like they have, maybe not exactly like they have, but struggling and struggling, then they have a commonality, a camaraderie with you, and then you can talk about Jesus. These techniques take time to build. You have to learn, and you have to learn to recognize what people want. Until you figure out what they want, don't offer Jesus. Now, there may be somebody who's already talked to them and they didn't take the opportunity, and Jesus may say, just go right up there and present the gospel. That may be fine. You got to let Him let you know how to deal with it. And as you're dealing with people, I mean, the first few you're going to struggle, and you may fail. They may yell at you and tell you to get out. They're not ready. It's not you. It's them and the devil not ready to accept Jesus. So you've planted some seeds. Hopefully you were gracious as you leave. Don't get discouraged. They put Jesus on the cross because they didn't want to hear Him. Going to the Old Testament, they locked up Jeremiah in prison because they didn't want to hear his prophetic preaching anymore. And it took the Babylonian exile to release him from prison. You never know what series of events are going to happen. So do your teamwork, have your morning meeting. I've been in jobs where we had meetings in the morning, specific meetings during the day if we needed to cover something new, and we'd have a post meeting at the end of the day. That one would be short because everybody wanted to go home, but we'd still have a meeting to make sure that there wasn't something on the table that the boss needed to deal with. So after you hear this, if you haven't had your meeting yet, have your meeting. It doesn't have to be a long meeting. Cover the essentials, which is in the Lord's Prayer, and then get specific. God will help you deal with anybody that you need help with. After all, we don't save people. It has never been our job to save people, so don't take that on yourself. And if you fail to save that person that day, you might tomorrow, somebody else might tomorrow. The sun is bright in my eyes. I gotta stay below that shadow is my mirror, keeping the sun off my eyes. The hazards of driving, and that's the sun I need but don't want to have to look at. I'd love to see the Son of God, but He might be just as bright to look at. I don't know. We know God is so bright you can't look at Him. All right. It's very, very practical being a Christian. As long as you remember, it's teamwork. Start your day with Jesus, end your day with Jesus, and tell people how great Jesus is during the day, and you've done a good job. Until we meet in the clouds, God bless.